Hello and welcome to This is a Man's World. Today's video is going to be all about Me Too. Well, hashtag Me Too. But first, let's hit the intro. So, last week I was invited on the Victoria Derbyshire show for BBC Two. The producers phoned me and asked if I would go on and talk about my experience of sexual harassment within the construction industry. Ooh, deep. This was all off the back of the Me Too or hashtag Me Too campaign. I'm not even sure I could call it a campaign, but you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, it's probably because you've been living under a rock for the last 2 or 3 weeks. No, just kidding. But if you don't know what it is, then here's a little bit of an insight.
More now, our breaking news tied to the sexual harassment and assault allegations against Harvey Weinstein. The New York Times is reporting Gwyneth Paltrow and Angelina Jolie say he harassed them years ago. There's also an explosive report in the New Yorker magazine by Ronan Farrow with more accusers and more legal questions.
Okay, so effectively, since the news broke about Harvey Weinstein and his antics within the film industry and harassment of women, the hashtag MeToo has kind of gone viral, and lots of women are speaking out on their experiences, just basically speaking up about inappropriate actions from male colleagues or anyone that they've had to deal with within their industry. Now, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding Me Too hashtag. A lot of people saying that, you know, women that are talking about their experiences that aren't as bad as, you know, physical sexual harassment are watering down the issue. So whilst I understand this view, I don't wholeheartedly agree with it. Which brings me nicely back to my involvement and the little interview that I did on the BBC show. After I'd shared my stories with the producer and agreed to go on the show the next day, I put the phone down. And that's when I started to really think about the issue of sexual harassment and my position within the construction industry. To be brutally honest, I asked myself the question, do you really want to go on live TV where people can see you? It turns out the FaceTime didn't work, so they didn't see me, they just heard me. But people might be watching it from the construction industry, and how is this going to affect me getting a job in the future? And then it automatically started to think about a comment that I'd said to my mum last week whilst we were on holiday, which was when the Harvey Weinstein stories started to get exposed. I was like, why didn't these women speak up? Why didn't, you know, some of these women now in a position of power within Hollywood, why didn't they speak up? And only since having this opportunity to speak up do I fully realise why they didn't speak up. Because I was having the same exact feelings. Will I get work? How will this affect people's views towards me? Etc, etc. Which I thought was kind of interesting. I then started to worry about what stories were appropriate or inappropriate to share on live TV. Again, I'll express that I've had no physical sexual harassment ever targeted towards me, and I've actually not seen any physical harassment, but verbal harassment, a ton, towards myself and towards other women. And so that's why I decided to share a story, which, to be honest with you, on the spectrum of, you know, mildly inappropriate to grossly inappropriate, was down the lower end. However, I was quite shocked by the lawyer's response to my experience, and this again got me thinking. Here's what her response was.
Hi Michelle.
Hello.
Hi, thank you very much for talking to us. Tell us about your own experience.
So yeah, I've worked in the construction industry for over 10 years, worked for lots of different firms, and haven't experienced any sexual, physical harassment, but I have on the verbal side of things, and I've also seen it dished out to other women as well.
What kind of things, without bearing in mind the time of day and there might be children around, what kind of things have you witnessed?
Comments towards, body image, I guess, proposition.
And just be specific about that. What your breasts look something, or you're fat, or what specifically?
Yeah, I mean, specifically on one job I was told that perhaps I shouldn't wear tight jeans because it may put the guys off doing their work.
And how did you respond to that?
At the time I was quite young and I laughed it off, but afterwards then I kind of realised that, it was massively inappropriate to make such a comment and was quite upsetting.
Yeah. And why do you think men felt able to say stuff like that and worse?
Sometimes I feel because if I'm working with guys and I've worked with them for quite a lengthy period of time, they get used to me being there. And being the only female on site, I kind of sometimes get classed as one of the lads. So maybe the comments from them are not very well thought through. But I think there's just not a lot of thought behind them.
Georgina, when you hear those kind of anecdotes, those kind of experiences, what would your advice be to somebody like Michelle?
Well, that does amount to harassment.
Does it?
And it absolutely does. Anything that that degrades you or humiliates you. The problem with these sort of comments is that any individual one, we've all been conditioned to shrug off, to treat as just the norm, and if you don't laugh along, you're the problem for not smiling along and having a sense of humour, and being too prickly generally. But it mounts up. Conditioning people to accept that as the norm is precisely what allows worse discrimination to take place down the line. And it's not right that people should be inured to that sort of conduct. So that is actionable. That would be harassment in itself, although most people don't realise that.
No, and most people, even if they do realise it, don't action it because it's going to get in the way of their working life. It's going to be a load of hassle, let's be honest.
Yes, it is. And that's why we do need a societal shift. And I think the big uproar this week is an amazing statement, societal statement, that we're ready to confront what has been happening for generations. But there comes a point when you have to put your foot down. And it's interesting that virtually any woman I know can put up her hand and say, well, yes, of course this has happened to me. I didn't consider this harassment necessary. Or, as you say, why would I make a complaint? Because then I wouldn't progress in my career.
Michelle, thank you.
Interesting. So now what I thought was a mildly inappropriate comment actually becomes quite relevant and made me realise that over the 10 years, I think maybe even 12 years now that I've been in construction, I've become desensitised. Desensitised to what is appropriate and what is inappropriate, probably towards myself and definitely towards others, other women that are on site or have been off site and comments have been made towards them. So in essence, what I'm trying to say was something that I was completely hesitant about doing and worried about actually was very worthwhile talking about because it made me think. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up there. Hit the subscribe button if you want, and I'm going to be on a construction site tomorrow. So back to daily vlogging.